Have you ever wondered what happens when you combine perspective with abstract doodles? Also, we are discussing the learning curve of abstract drawings. Well, hello there, I'm Détroit. The beginning of this video says it all. I'm here to combine ink drawing of the abstract genre with perspective. I define the shape of the drawing with pencil at first, and I'll tell you more about the shape later. After that, I used a ruler to draw perspective lines. I'm using 1-point perspective here because it's a nice simple way to figure out how to draw. Maybe I'll do up to 3-point perspective with the abstract drawings in the future. We'll see how this one looks first. If you really want to know if I'll do it, the best way to check is to subscribe so you can see whatever I will upload in the future. Things you may want to know regarding this drawing. I am using a Rotring Isograph 0.35 with Rotring black ink to draw. This drawing I think is the 8th to last page of this sketchbook, which means it's almost complete, and I can make a full sketchbook tour soon. Another good reason to subscribe, by the way, because I'm excited for it, looking back at all the things I drew inside this book. The pattern for this abstract drawing involves a lot of rectangles, hatching, and even cross-hatching sometimes to make small grid patches. To break the symmetries that can arise from such a pattern, I also draw diagonals and lines that are going straight up against the perspective. You can't have every line be oriented the right way, that would make it boring. For the same reason, to make it interesting, I'm throwing in circles and semicircles here and there. The key point is to achieve a balance while not repeating a design. Everything is original here. Abstract drawings are all about this balance between original and repetition. I would say that the learning curve for regular drawings are pretty much linear. When you start drawing, you realize immediately that it is hard and it takes a lot of practice. No one can draw perfect anatomy straight away, or perspective, or composition. You need to practice and actively learn stuff to get better. The margin of progression is visible from the start. For abstract drawings, I would say the learning curve follows more or less the Dunning-Kruger effect curve. Basically, at your first abstract doodle, you feel like it is easy. Like the entire genre of abstract drawings is easy enough, and that's it. Anything can be abstract in a way. But the more you practice, the more you realize that you were completely wrong. You've just passed the major bump that is overestimating yourself. The difficulty of drawing in an abstract style, like I do, takes a while to understand. When I first started drawing with black ink, all I did was repeat patterns. One of my favorite was leaf patterns. I also thought that the thinner the lines, the more interesting and complex the drawing was. In reality, it only meant drawing for longer in order to finish one artwork. Now, at this point in my arts journey, I would say that I passed the humility valley of the Dunning-Kruger curve. I think I have a realistic view of my own ability and skill. I am no beginner, but I still have much to learn. But at least I know what I need to do and what I'm currently doing. This drawing is a good example of that. A complete beginner could think that this is easy enough and that they could do it themselves. And maybe that's true, but I really think they wouldn't be able to. This pattern is simple in essence, but there is many more things to consider. Besides the perspective point, if you look at the entire page, it is pretty much uniform, and that is where one of the difficulty lays. This drawing pattern isn't just one thing over and over again. There are dense hatched patches and also empty white blocks. There are circular shapes and very angular triangles. When you first try, without planning, it is very difficult to have something uniform with such a pattern. It takes a lot of practice to learn to do it naturally and without thinking. Another obvious thing that makes it hard for a beginner to do that is hand control. I've been drawing for years. Except for the occasional mistakes that make the liveliness of this drawing, all my lines are exactly how I want them. Here you can see it with all the parallel lines. The spacing is always regular. Some areas might have a wider hatching for density variations, but if you take any 3 lines next to each other, they have the same spacing. That's something you can see in pretty much all my recent drawing videos, the consistency of the drawing. Even when it was started one day and finished 3 days later, the drawing will not change. This is where the difficulty of abstract art really lays. You can call any pattern of ink on paper an abstract doodle, but the difference will show if you haven't learned balance yet, and train your hand, fingers and wrist. The point of all of that wasn't to say that I'm an expert, which I'm not. The point is, well, what is the point actually? I guess to keep practicing And this is also why I tried my hand at so many different patterns, almost one per week. This sort of exercise teaches me a lot and also often reveals areas where I need to get better. Mixing 2 or more patterns together still proves difficult sometimes. Since I work so much to achieve balance and have a uniform looking drawing, it becomes even harder for me to shade or highlight a certain part of a drawing. This is something Peter Draws does seemingly effortlessly, which is a really good example. He is much more experienced at drawing abstract stuff and it shows, especially in the textures, where just from his ink you can see if something is biological or mechanical or mineral. You can see if he's drawing an impossible machine, or an alien landscape, or an eldritch cosmic entity. He also uses a lot of contrast, whereas my usual style is more bland and uniform from afar, but intricate upon closer inspection. This style of mine is also one of the reasons I'm always having fun with the shape of my drawings. This is a constant battle I've been fighting for a long time to make people stop using rectangular canvases. I mean, I made a video about it more than a year ago. A rectangular shape is boring and unnatural. Nature doesn't have rectangles. If you combine a boring shape with an even pattern that doesn't pop, the doodle looks grey from afar and that's it. Most of the time I am intentionally cutting the drawing short before I fill the whole page. This is why I traced the shape beforehand here. By the way, the rulers I was using for that are rounded rulers, which I've also heard being called parrots or pistols sometimes. They are much more fun than linear rulers and they're also really useful to scale up or down curves in fashion, for example. To conclude on the topic of abstract difficulty, this drawing is a very good example. The pattern might seem easy and simple at first, but the fact that I managed to make something that looks even when the composite shapes are so different shows a certain control and balance. The shape is strange and eye-catching to make it more interesting, and the center of perspective adds to that interest. Overall, I'm really proud of this drawing. It looks cool. Maybe it is still a bit too abstract, and adding a second point of perspective will make it look like some strange city. I'll try that someday. Like the video and leave a comment, tell me if you agree on my analysis of abstract drawings and their learning curve. You can also leave me drawing prompts that I will pick from in future videos. Or just ask me anything and I'll do my best to answer. Subscribe to see all the crazy cool videos I'll make in the future, and I'll see you in a few days. Bye!